So Harry Potter is one of those things that I am extremely passionate about, and I really wanted to do a tier ranking video on them, especially because I wanted to do it in a way that was a little bit different. It's not just S, A, B, C, D. The way that I've set it up here, we've got all the tiers based on the OWLS test system that they have in the books. So wizards and witches are go through exams just like normal muggles do in high school and everything and uni. And the way that they score owls is based on this system here. So the top score you can get is called outstanding. Under that, you go exceeds expectations, and then acceptable, poor, dreadful, and troll. So that's the kind of marks that they will get back after they do their end of year exams, which is pretty funny. And I really wanted to do a tier list based on that ranking system. So starting off in release order, of course. So Philosopher's Stone, it was a extremely strong start to this series. Like one of the strongest starts to a franchise I think you could possibly hope for. The Philosopher's Stone was not just a movie based on a really popular book, but I think the movie made the series a lot more well known publicly, and I think it really brought it into the mainstream when it came out. Obviously, when all these kids were getting cast in England at the time of filming or right before filming, it was a massive deal. Like, these guys were on the news and had a press conference because they were cast as Harry, Ron, and Hermione, and they were like, we don't know what we're stepping into here, but really excited to do it nonetheless. And yeah, so solid start to the series. I think it goes into acceptable for me personally. Another really funny thing about this movie is there are extended editions of the first and second movie. The extended edition for the first one is pretty decent. It doesn't add in anything crazy or anything like that, but it's just an interesting look at the movie. If you haven't seen it, watch it once, I reckon, and then probably don't watch it after that because the theatrical version is perfect. But yeah, Philosopher's Stone, acceptable. Moving on, we've got the Chamber of Secrets. Now, in terms of books, I actually like the Chamber of Secrets a lot more than the Philosopher's Stone. When it comes to the movie, I think I slightly like it more. Not as much as I like the book more than the Philosopher's Stone, but the Chamber of Secrets movie is a little bit more mature. They're grown up a little bit more. The acting is a little bit better. So I think there's a very small step up from the Philosopher's Stone in terms of the movie. It also has a pretty cool ending as well, I think, in the Chamber of Secrets with the basilisk and, Harry getting bit and then stabbing the basilisk in the top of the mouth. Pretty badass. You get Fawkes in the movie as well. Lucius Malfoy is also introduced, and he is played incredibly well. I cannot remember the actor's name, but I think he has a incredible actor to perform that role, and yeah, they do a great job. This movie also has a extended edition. Now, the extended edition for this one is kind of dog shit, I'll be honest. There's a few scenes in the extended edition for the Chamber of Secrets that are, well, when you watch them, you know why they were cut out. Like, all the actors in this movie do an incredible job, except for those scenes. Like, they really do a bad job in those scenes. There's one scene on a stairway where Harry is kind of running away from Ron and Hermione, and he's questioning who he is and like why he can talk to snakes and all this shit, and he feels like he doesn't know what he's capable of, and it's just some of the worst acting I've honestly ever seen from Daniel Radcliffe. So I'm glad they cut that out. There is also another scene in this movie in the extended edition where Harry is sitting on a very far away hill that he flew to with his Nimbus 2000, and he's kind of talking to Hedwig, and he's like, "Who am I, Hedwig? what am I? And it's like the worst line and the worst line delivery I've ever heard in my life. But I'm really glad they cut that out for the theatrical version. Nevertheless, I think this is still a slightly improved movie from the first. Like I said, a little bit more mature. Acting is a little bit better, except for those scenes that they cut out, of course, from the extended edition. And some really cool action towards the end as well. That, is dark and really cool. Also, both these movies directed by Chris Columbus. I think he did a phenomenal job to introduce this series into mainstream audiences. So, yeah, both very, very good movies, and that's probably where I'd put them. Next up, we have The Prisoner of Azkaban. So, The Prisoner of Azkaban and The Goblet of Fire are the only two movies where they have a single director. So, Chris Columbus directed these two, and then David Yates directed everything from The Order of the Phoenix upwards, and Prisoner of Azkaban directed by Alfonso Cuarón, and then Goblet of Fire directed by Mike Newell. So very interesting that those two movies have their own unique directors for them that never directed any other Harry Potter movies. For The Prisoner of Azkaban, Alfonso Cuarón didn't just make a really good Harry Potter movie. I think everyone that's seen this movie can agree that it is a great movie by itself. Whether you're a Harry Potter fan or not, I think you can watch this movie and really appreciate all of the characters' kind of motivations and where they are in their life. So, for example, Ron and Hermione's little fight over their cat and mouse or cat and rat problem is something that's very relatable for a lot of people. And then especially with like Harry, he's still figuring out his past. Like he doesn't know a lot of things, and he finds out a lot about himself in this movie that later turns out to be not true. But it's like that kind of phase you go through when you're young, that you feel like you know things and then you don't, and then you kind of mature and get older and see things from a more objective perspective and kind of create your own thoughts about them. Not only that, there is some really cool visual effects in this movie as well. So the whole night bus scene is incredible, has a really cool soundtrack behind it as well. What else? There's actual practical magic in this movie. So it's not just like waving your wand and shit happens, but there is a scene very early on when Harry goes to, I'm going to call it a pub. I'm not sure what pub it is, but there is a waiter and he's clearing tables, and he kind of folds a tablecloth over some cutlery and a glass or cup or whatever, and he folds it up, and then the cup and glass and cutlery disappears. Like he doesn't take out his wand or anything. It's just kind of like a practical magic effect, which is really cool. And then another one where Dumbledore is making a speech, he kind of waves his hand over a flame, and the flame goes out, and then he waves it over again and the flame comes back. So those really cool practical magic effects, I think, definitely improved, or I wouldn't say improved, but they were very unique for this movie, and I think they were really cool to see, especially because they're not like so in your face that they're like, oh, look at this, but it's kind of there if you notice it, and when you do, you're like, damn, that's cool. This movie also introduces Gary Oldman as Sirius Black, and Gary Oldman is an incredible director, and he does a great job as Sirius. He does a really good job of playing someone that's been stuck in prison for 12 years and then getting out and getting revenge, and then also having a really heartfelt moment with Harry after telling him that, you know, he was really good friends with his parents before they died, and he was actually his godfather, and that's a really cool heartfelt moment. Also, this movie has time travel in it, and it's pretty funny. This is like a time travel movie on top of being a Harry Potter movie, and the time travel aspect works really well, I think. There are some very solid rules that they have for time travel, like you can't be seen by anyone else, especially yourself. And if you do, like wizards that do that go absolutely insane. So really cool that that is a part of this movie as well. And yeah, this is an outstanding 100%. It's not just a great Harry Potter movie, it is a great movie by itself. I think even if you're not a Harry Potter fan, you'll definitely enjoy that. Speaking of being a Harry Potter fan, I am wearing a Gryffindor beanie. I forgot to mention that at the start. I got this beanie maybe when I was like 13 or 14, and I have a Slytherin one as well. I don't have a Ravenclaw or Hufflepuff one, which I'm really upset about because I could have got them, but I didn't, and now I regret it. And also, they're really nice beanies and super warm. Anyway, we have The Goblet of Fire next. So, like I said, this one is directed by Mike Newell. He only directed this one and nothing after this. That being said, I think it's a great movie and a really fun one, especially because it follows something called the Triwizard Tournament, which is introduced into this movie, which is like, I don't know if you've ever done like inter-school sport in primary school or high school or whatever, but it feels a lot like that. Like 3 schools get together and they go through some challenges and they have representatives for the school or the schools, and they all compete against each other to see who comes out on top at the end. I believe there is also I want to say 12,000 galleon prize pool for the winner, or prize money for the winner. And something that's not in this movie but is in the books that I wish they kind of kept in it is that Harry gives the prize money to Fred and George, because they are actually from this book going onwards, Fred and George start planning their Weasley Wizard Wheezers shop, or actually I can't remember what the shop's called, but Weasley Wizard Wheezers are like one of their products, which are like a bunch of lollies that they use to get kids sick, to be able to get out of class. But anyway, in the book for this movie, they start taking bets for the Triwizard Tournament to help raise funds for their shop eventually, and also buy ingredients and everything for their prototype products. And I think that's super cool. They do have the whole betting storyline in this movie, but they never tell you why it's in it. But anyway, that's really cool to have in here. All of the challenges in the movie are really well done too. I think it's a bit unfortunate that in the movie they didn't show much of the dragon task, especially because there are 3 other champions that do it, and they just kind of have a montage of Harry listening to everyone do the task while he's sitting alone and waiting for his turn. But when it gets to his turn, I mean, the Hungarian Horntail is super well done, has a really cool design in the movie, and the scene is incredible, I think, as well. Yeah, there's a lot of great action. And then, of course, Voldemort is resurrected at the end, and he is played by Ralph Fiennes. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. But anyway, he does a really good job of Voldemort, I think. And yeah, that whole graveyard scene at the end is super dope, especially with the, what's the phrase? I think it's Prior Incantatum, which I believe is the whole force field that comes at the end where they're dueling and all the ghosts of the people that Voldemort has killed come out and help Harry, which is super dope. I like the way they did that. Cedric in this movie is really cool as well, and he's played by Robert Pattinson. I can't believe I almost forgot his name. He's super cool in this movie, and it's kind of crazy that he's in this movie and the Twilight movies as well, because the Twilight movies started coming out as these movies were coming out as well. So I remember back in the day, there was a lot of kind of fandom fighting between Harry Potter fans and Twilight fans. But anyway, it's super cool to see him in this movie. And yeah, this is a super fun movie overall. I'd probably put it in exceeds expectations, because this was a fat fucking book. Like, this was the first really big Harry Potter book. And there's a lot of side plots that are in the book that aren't in the movie. So the fact that they took all that stuff out of the movie, but I think they still provided a really awesome and really faithful adaptation of the book. Even though there is a lot cut out, I still think it's really well done for what it is. And oh yeah, the whole Quidditch World Cup at the start, that's fucking dope. Like, yeah, I love that start of the movie. But anyway, we have the Order of the Phoenix next. Now, this one also has a lot in the book that is cut out of the movie. One thing in particular that I will say that I really loved in the movie that is cut out, oh, sorry, that I really loved in the book that's cut out in the movie is how Fred and George kind of leave Hogwarts and Peeves gives them like a salute on the way out. And I think that's just like a super dope scene because Peeves is like this ghost in Hogwarts that fucks around with everyone and tells a lot of jokes and mucks around and stuffs everyone up. And for that ghost to show so much disrespect to everyone in the school, and then when it comes to Fred and George, when they leave, gives them a salute, like that's a really cool character moment for those two and Peeves as well. Really cool moment in the books, one of my favorite moments in that whole book, but it's a shame it's not in here. Other than that, this movie has some really cool stuff in it as well. I think the whole Dolores Umbridge stuff is incredibly well done. Like the actor that played Umbridge in this movie gets hate for playing the role because she did it so fucking well. It's one of those few cases where an actor actually gets hate for the role they do because they do it so fucking well. People hate the real life person behind the character, which is crazy, but yeah, so that is incredibly well done. I think I know Dementors are in the Prisoner of Azkaban as well, but they have a little bit of a different design in this movie, which is pretty cool as well. We get to see the Ministry of Magic for the first time too, and I think it's a really cool first showcase into a bit of the greater world outside of Hogwarts. The Ministry of Magic is super dope. They've got a lot of, it's a really dark place. Like it's all full of black tiles and some gold statues and a really massive big poster of fucking Cornelius Fudge, which is cool. But everyone kind of travels in by flue powder, or later on you'll figure out that some people travel by toilet. But anyway, it's a really cool introduction into the greater world of Harry Potter, I thought. You get some really cool lore building as well. So, for instance, with the Thestrals, you learn that they were actually what was carrying all the carriages throughout all these movies when kids come to Hogwarts. And kids thought that the carriages kind of drove themselves, but until this movie, Luna Lovegood kind of, I think it was Luna Lovegood that tells Harry that you can't see a Thestral unless you've seen death, which is crazy. So everyone that sees a Thestral at Hogwarts and doesn't understand why other people don't must have a really hard time coming to terms with that. So that's super dope. Well, super interesting. Yeah, and then there's an awesome fight at the end of this movie with Dumbledore and Voldemort. Also, Sirius dying was really sad, and I think Daniel Radcliffe's performance in that scene and reacting to Sirius's death was really heartfelt. Also, I believe, or at least this is the rumor, when Harry screams in that moment, the reason they muted it, well, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but the reason I've heard that they mute it is because it's so gut-wrenching and real that they were like, we can't have that noise play out because it's kind of like harmful for the ears or whatever. So they muted it a little bit, but yeah, he did great in that scene, showed a lot of emotion, has really improved with his acting over the years. So I think that was a testament to something that he's improved on so much. That being said, Order of the Phoenix, I'd probably put it in... Yeah, before I rank it, there's also the whole Dumbledore's army thing, which is really cool. I'm doing this for the first time as well, so I don't actually know where I want to put it. I kind of want to go exceeds expectations, but maybe just below the Goblet of Fire. I think that's pretty fair. Because the Goblet of Fire is like a little bit more exciting throughout the whole movie because you got all the challenges and they're spread out really well. And then you've got the whole Yule Ball thing as well, which is really cool. yeah, I think I like the Goblet of Fire a little bit more than the Order of the Phoenix. Definitely like the Order of the Phoenix a lot more than Chamber of Secrets and Philosopher's Stone, but I think I'll put it there. I think that's a fair rating. Now we've got the Half Blood Prince. So this is actually my favorite Harry Potter movie, which is kind of funny because I don't think a lot of people really like it that much, especially fans of the book, because in the book, there's a lot of law breaking. No, sorry, not law breaking, but like in depth law on Voldemort and his actual kind of origin. So a lot of that stuff where Dumbledore and Harry go to the Pensieve and look at memories of Dumbledore. One of the ones that, or actually, they look at memories of a lot of other people too in the book, and that's a lot of the stuff that they cut out of the movie, which is a real shame because I think that's what the book did really well, and that's why a lot of people really love the book. They cut it out of this movie, which is a shame, but nevertheless, I think it's a really fun movie anyway. You still get to learn a lot about Dumbledore's past and Slughorn's past and everything through those memories. You get to learn about Horcruxes, which is the whole kind of plan to defeat Voldemort, which is super dope. You get a couple love stories here as well. So you get like the love triangle between Ron, Lavender, and Hermione, which is really funny to see play out, especially when Ron is unconscious in bed in the hospital wing, and he speaks Hermione's or mumbles Hermione's name in front of Lavender, which is super funny. And then McGonagall, Snape, and Dumbledore are all there to witness it, which is just such an awkward situation to be in, especially for teachers looking at their students in that through that lens. But yeah, you get Dumbledore's death. That's super emotional. You also get a little bit more lore on Snape. Now, you don't get everything. Like at the end of this movie, you still think he's a bad guy and a lot worse than you might have thought from all the other movies. But Alan Rickman always portrayed Snape extremely well. Possibly the best portrayal of any character in this whole series was Alan Rickman as Snape. So to see him kill Voldemort at the end was really sad. But yeah, later on you learn it's all for a good cause. But yeah, I actually really love this movie. You also get to see Ron play Quidditch, which is awesome. In the book, I actually think it all happens in the Order of the Phoenix, the whole Ron playing Quidditch storyline. But I feel like in this book, there might have been the whole Weasley is our king thing, which is cool. I wish they had that in the movie as well, but they have a little version of it. Nobody calls him king, but they all celebrate him, which is super dope. Now, I have said this is probably my favorite Harry Potter movie, so I will put it at the very top. I don't think it's better than The Prisoner of Azkaban, but this is my list at the end of the day, and it's my personal opinion, and I really love this movie, so it goes above The Prisoner of Azkaban for me personally. Next up, we have the Deathly Hallows Part 1. Now, I think for anyone that is not a fan of Harry Potter, probably does not like this movie. I feel like it might have been potentially the first time or one of the first times in Hollywood where they did a part 1, part 2 situation with a book adaptation. So the Deathly Hallows is one book, and then they decided to split it into 2 movies because I guess they could make a lot more money from it, of course, and then you get a lot more of the book being told, which I think is fair enough as well, because it is a pretty big book and there is a lot that goes on in it and a lot of characters that need to be delved into, so it's pretty fair enough to do this. As a movie by itself, it's good. It's enjoyable. I think it's probably... I would watch it over the Philosopher's Stone and Chamber of Secrets probably. I don't know if I'd watch it over any other movie in the series, but they're a lot older. They're getting out of school now, or they were supposed to have their last year and they don't go to school because of Snape taking over and everything. So they go out and chase Horcruxes, and you get the whole Ministry has fallen thing. So Voldemort takes over the Ministry and puts someone else in charge. You also get to learn a lot about Horcruxes and the actual Deathly Hallows, which is super dope. So through the Tales of Beetle the Bard, I think, yeah, there's a, is it the Tales of Beetle the Bard? Sorry, it is the Tales of Beetle the Bard, but the story is called The Tale of the Three Brothers, and that's how you learn about the Deathly Hallows. And I like that in that moment, or in that scene, when they finish reading it, or when Luna Lovegood's dad explains them, Hermione looks over to Ron and Harry, because she's like, holy shit, we do know that they exist because they have the invisibility cloak, and they've always had the invisibility cloak. So super cool moment. Really, it's not a moment that's really touched on much, but I really like that look over from Hermione was in there, because she realized that, oh shit, these things are real. You get to go to Godric's Hollow. Of course, that's where all this shit started, with Voldemort killing Harry's parents. You get the whole forest chase scene, which I think is really cool. I have also watched a lot of the behind the scenes for this movie as well, and the forest chase scene, from what I remember from the behind the scenes, was like one of Rupert, Emma, and Daniel's favorite days on set, because they just got to run around in a forest, and in the behind the scenes they kind of explained how they were all having a race with each other, which is pretty funny, just to see who was the fastest. So I think that's super cool. Yeah, you get to learn a little bit more about Dumbledore as well, like especially his backstory. It's a fine movie. It's a good movie. I'd definitely watch it over Philosopher of Stone and Chamber of Secrets. I probably enjoyed a lot more than regular people, because I'm a massive Harry Potter fan, but overall, I'd probably put it in acceptable, but I'd put it above Chamber. Next up, we have the Deathly Hallows Part 2. Now, this was an incredibly well done send-off, I think, for the entire Harry Potter franchise. To an extent, of course, we got the Fantastic Beasts movies eventually, but from when this movie came out, this was meant to be a send-off, especially a massive send-off for all the cast that have played these characters for so long. I think it did a really good job to send them off in style and have a really emotional kind of goodbye for everyone, especially with the 19 years later prologue, seeing them all much, much older in really weird prosthetics, with kids and everything, sending their kids off to Hogwarts. So that's a really cool, touching moment. Of course, that's in the book as well, but it's awesome that they put that in this movie too. You get to learn about how Snape was actually a good guy all along, and you get the very famous quote of "always" from Snape, which is super cool. You get to see that he was in love with Lily Potter the whole time, and they have the same Patronus because he was so in love with her, and it was him that helped Harry find the Sword of Gryffindor in the Deathly Hallows Part 1, which when you watch this movie, or when you get later on in the book and you realize, oh, Snape sent me to find that sword that we really needed in that moment, is like a really cool thing to realize. Yeah, you get the whole Horcrux journey, or Horcrux hunting thing finally completed. It's funny because in the Deathly Hallows Part 1, it's like they spent the whole movie finding one Horcrux, and then in Part 2, they find like 3 or 4 of them or something and kill all of them, which like Harry was one, the Hufflepuff cup, the Ravenclaw diadem, and the snake. So they find and kill 4 Horcruxes and figure out that Harry is a Horcrux and kill him as well, and then kill Voldemort. And in the Deathly Hallows Part 1, they only find and kill 1, which is super funny. But anyway, the whole Battle of Hogwarts is awesome too. Extremely well done. There's a lot of deaths that happen off screen in the movie, which is a shame, because some really big characters die. I cannot remember which one of the twins it is, but I think it's George. Maybe George dies, and that happens off screen. and then Lupin and Tongstye, which happens off screen as well. Another one is Lavender Brown. I believe Fenrir Greyback, who made Lupin a werewolf, also turns Lavender Brown into a werewolf, or at least kills her. I can't remember if she dies or just turns into a werewolf, but that is in the movie. You do get to see him biting her neck, which is really weird. You get to learn a lot more about Dumbledore in this movie again through the lens of Aberforth, and he is a really cool character. I think a very interesting character. You get to learn a bit about his relationship with Ariana and Dumbledore's relationship with Ariana. So there's like a lot to Dumbledore that I wish we got to learn more of throughout these movies, but of course he's a very secretive character, so that was never going to happen. And even in the movie called Secrets of Dumbledore, they don't really go into his backstory much at all, except for his weird relationship with Grindelwald. But anyway, I think this movie overall is an incredibly well done ending to a massive franchise that spanned maybe 10 years of filmmaking, and to be able to see all these actors grow up and play these roles over such a long period of time and do them such justice is awesome. Yeah, this movie is amazing. I don't know if I would still put it above Half-Blood Prince. Fuck it, maybe, yeah, I will. I'll put it above Half-Blood Prince. Yeah, I mean, the scene with Mrs. Weasley and Bellatrix is fucking awesome. I'm so glad that's in the movie because that was an awesome scene from the book, and it's just Mrs. Weasley killing Bellatrix. I think she kills him, like it looks like she kills him. I can't remember if she actually dies, but literally freezes her and then shatters her into 1,000 pieces. And before that, she has her famous line of, "Not my daughter, you bitch." I think that's just fucking awesome. I think it's the first time in all of the Harry Potter movies, maybe even in all of the books, where someone actually says a swear word other than Ron saying bloody hell the whole series. So that's, I think that's awesome, and a really cool character moment for Mrs. Weasley. So I think that would be my definitive tier list for all these movies. You might notice that none of them go below acceptable. I think that should be pretty obvious why. I'm a massive fan. I don't think any of these movies are bad, and I don't think any of them belong in poor, dreadful, or troll tier. So yeah, that's my ranking of them. I love these movies. I'm really worried for the Harry Potter TV show that should be coming out, I think in 2 years from now, potentially. I don't think it comes out in 2025. I think it comes out in 2026. But these movies, all of these movies were made right before social media really popped off. Or not even popped off, like right before social media was even really a thing. So all of these actors got all the attention that they got was from like traditional media and like TV show appearances and interviews like that, and nothing online. Like nobody really had an online opinion of these movies when they were coming out. So I'm really worried for all the actors that have to play these characters for the TV show, and I'm really worried for the TV show by itself because it's got a fucking lot to live up to. Comparing them back to these movies, I know J.K. Rowling is, or it will have a very big say in the TV show. So that's awesome. That's really good. I believe she's doing a lot of the interviews for all of the actors as well, which is great because she needs to be there for this TV show. Otherwise, I don't know what's going to happen with it. I really hope that the TV show goes into a lot more of the lore and other side stories that were not in these movies. I think that's a perfect reason to actually have the show because there's so much in the books that weren't in the movies, and the movies are far more condensed and shorter. So if we have like, let's say 7-10 episode seasons, I think that maybe run between 40 and an hour long. I think that's a perfect amount of time to actually delve into a lot more story and lore that weren't in the movies. But anyway, that's my tier list for the movies. I love these movies. Cannot wait for the TV show. Don't really care for Fantastic Beasts, I'll be honest.